These are my brand new axles from Raxles. They're located in Gainesville, Florida. I ordered them on Tuesday. I live in Orlando. They arrived promptly on Thursday. I'm about to install them. It's Friday afternoon. They come complete with a prepaid shipping return label for the cores, and they also include the two tools that you're going to need to remove the old axles and install the new ones. So let's get to it and see how this thing goes. Alright, I got my Audi A4 Cabrio and about to start on replacing the front axles. So what I've done is I popped off the center cap here, and I'm going to loosen up the center nut there before I even take the wheel off. So coming over here to the box, the box here. Here's the new bolts. See if I can get focus on that. Okay, new bolts, and there's also my wrenches in here as well. So we're going to pop those open and see how that goes. Alright, so here's the two loaner tools they gave me. I've got the 17mm hex head and the star wrench as well. So I'm going to pop those on there and break these nuts loose. So here's my 17mm hex that they sent to me. Just going to stick it right here on the wheel. Use my breaker bar. See if I can break this loose. And there it goes. A lot easier than I had thought. Alright, so just got that broken loose, and we'll go into that. My last lug nut out right here. Ready to take the wheel off. And there we go. Okay, so here's the axle we're going to replace. That's the original axle that was in here, made from Audi. There's 115,000 miles on that, so I'm told they don't last quite that long, and it's time to replace them. The symptoms we've been having is a lot of shimmy in the front end during acceleration, so we're hoping this is the culprit, and we'll see when we get these replaced. A couple things we're going to have to do. They say if you just turn the wheel, you'll be able to disconnect the bolts on the inner part, take out the bolt right here in the center. You got that? And turn the wheel, and then this thing should kind of just slide out on its own. So we're going to give that a shot and see what happens. Alright, so I'm going to take off the other side, the other wheel. That'll allow me to turn the steering so I can pull the axle out properly. So here I've got my hex head wrench again. I'm going to insert it right here. And I'm going to use my breaker bar and just break this loose. Alright, going to need a little extra persuasion on this one. So I'm going to slide this extra breaker bar right over here and gently push down and see if I can just kind of break this loose without busting anything. Of course, this one's really, really tight. Okay, just going to remove our other wheel and expose the other axle. This way, like I said, we'll be able to turn the front wheel a little bit and slide that axle out. Okay, so I'm going to take off the anti-lock brake mechanism right over here, and from what I understand, you just kind of loosen up this bolt right here, and we're going to take this out, and then we're just going to kind of see if we can get it to kind of jiggle out a little bit. Okay, so that came right out, so that was pretty easy. Okay, so there's the bolts I want to remove right in the back there, and I'm going to get a long extension and a socket wrench, and maybe even an air wrench, and just kind of work those out. Once I work those out, I'm going to work my way out to the front here. I'm going to pull off the nut on the outside here, and hopefully I can just maneuver that axle and just kind of pull it out without having to take any more off. So here's my star wrench right here. I don't have a wrench that fits on the end here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a socket. I'm going to take a socket that just kind of fits right over the end there. Then I'm going to take a long ratchet wrench extension, stick it in the back of the socket. I'm going to add a little bit more length to that one with another one right here. Then I'm going to put my socket wrench right there on the end, and I'm going to get in there. Okay, so the problem I'm having is when I turn the nut, the whole axle spins. So I'm going to have to find a way to lock it down. A couple guys that I saw on the internet that use this technique. Okay, so in order to keep the axle from spinning while I'm trying to unloosen it, just going to take a lug nut, put it back into the brake caliper right here, tighten it down just a bit, just like that. Then I'm going to take a screwdriver, I'm going to jam it into these slots right here. Actually, I'm going to have to come up from the bottom because the way I'm going. And what this is going to do is keep this from rotating on around. So we'll just have to hold that in there and see how that works. Okay, so I've got the first one broken loose, and I'll break the second one loose. It's pretty tight. Okay, there's two. Okay, I'm going to work my way all the way around and do the rest of them. Okay, so just going to extract the bolt. Here's my first bolt coming out. Right there. And I'm going to take out all the bolts. Here, I think there's 6 of them. Okay, I'm on my last bolt. So that's all 6. You can see the whole mechanism just kind of letting loose there. And gently pull that out. And if you come on down here, next thing we're going to do is we're going to, well, I don't know if we'll have to take that out, but we're going to unloosen this, take this all the way out, and that'll completely free up the axle. And hopefully we can just kind of turn the wheel and kind of shimmy the new one, shimmy the old one out, and then put the new one in. Okay, so you can see in the back everything just kind of like let loose when all the bolts came out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over, and then I can actually, if you look down here to your left, right back in here, if you can get a shot up and above, you can come up over the top, up over the top, and look down, look down. You can see the whole axle just kind of slides this way. So I'm going to keep sliding it until I can pull it up, and there it just kind of dropped out. So now I've just got to kind of finagle it to get it out of this area. So there it is. It just kind of slid out. It came out really easily. I believe I had replaced this this axle boot quite some time ago, and then here's the old axle boot. I can't really tell if this is indeed the culprit, but it does seem a little bit loose, so I'm not sure how to test it to see if that's it, but that's what it looks like. These are the original Audi axles, so I'll be able to box those up and send those back to Raxels. Okay, so here's our brand new Raxels axle. Comes complete with brand new bolts. Comes complete with the new hex head bolt as well. And here's our axle right here. So we'll do the kind of unboxing here. There's the new one compared to the old one. Okay, so you can see this axle, the new axle actually looks a little bit shorter, but it's not really shorter. It's just that this axle, for some reason, is apart. That might be part of the main problem that I'm having with the axle. So these are definitely shot. Can't wait to put these in and see how everything works. Okay, so we have our axle out. We're going to be installing the new one right now. You can see in the back there where the old axle was removed. I've kind of cleaned it up just a little bit with a towel. We're just going to take the new axle, put it in there, attach the new, put it through the spindle first, attach the bolts, and I think this job's going to be done. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and install the axle, and I'm going to push this through to the back. I'm going to put the spindle in first. They tell me that these axles are exactly the same on both sides, so it doesn't really matter which one that I pull from which box. Okay, so I'm going to put my spindle in first, this side in. Kind of find where that just slides in. Okay, so my spindle's in. I'm going to go ahead and put this bolt in right here. Just kind of get that started. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my new bolts right here on the ground, and I'm going to put all these into the rear of the axle, and hopefully we'll be all finished up. Okay, so I've got a few of my axle bolts in. I'm going to just put my last couple in there. And I'm just going to turn that around. If you can see in there, reach in. Okay, so now they're all in. I'm just going to snug those up with my wrench, and then I'm going to tighten them down. All right, so I'm going to snug up my last bolt here. Just going to hand tighten it. And the directions say to tighten them up, just go in a star pattern right around there and tighten them up so it presses down evenly. Okay, so all the bolts inside on the interior are all tightened up, went in the star pattern, then repeated around again just to make sure. Come on out here. My Allen bolt is still a little bit loose, so I'm going to take my impact wrench and just kind of torque on it a little bit. Okay, and that's good for now, and then we'll tighten that up with the torque wrench, and then we'll tighten that up with a breaker bar as well. Finally, we're just going to take the anti-lock brake mechanism and insert it back in right there. Put the little Allen wrench nut on it and secure that in just like that. Get our Allen wrench on there, tighten it up, and this side's just about complete. Alright, so now we're working on the other side. We're going to take out the brake piece. Just give that a little jiggle. Gently slide that out. Okay. We're going to move on to the outside here. We're going to put our lug bolt in so it holds the brakes and holds the centerpiece in place. That's pretty good. And then we're going to take out our center bolt. Okay, once we have that extracted, that'll free up the spline in the front. And then we've got our wrench on the top here ready to go. And it'll take out our bolts on this side here. There's a heat plate in there on this side, but I don't think that's going to be any trouble for us. Okay, so we're going to break those loose. So we've got our screwdriver jammed into our caliper, and that'll keep the whole caliper and the axle from spinning. So that's how you hold it, like that. Okay, so here I am on the passenger side, and I'm having a little more trouble on this side. I just can't move. I just can't turn the steering and pull the shaft out. So it looks like what I'm going to have to do is remove the bolt on this one swing arm down here, and then once I drop that out of the way, the whole steering mechanism will come loose, and then I'll be able to pull out the drive shaft. There just doesn't seem to be enough room and space, and there's a couple of extra bars in there this time, so I'm going to give that a shot. Okay, so I've taken off the two upper control arms, and I've kind of gotten enough room in here to kind of jiggle this thing loose. So what I'm going to do is just kind of try to work this thing out of here, and then there it is in the back. So I'm just going to kind of jiggle it, move it around, and then see if I can get it all the rest of the way out of here and then drop in the new one. Okay, so I was able to kind of finagle it right out of there. I'm just going to get a little bit of brake cleaner on in the back there, and kind of clean that off in there. Alright, and then just going to do everything backwards. I'm just going to put the drive shaft back in, and then just going to put my bolts back in up here, and tighten everything up, and then I'm going to put it all back together. Okay, so I've got both axles in. I've tightened up all my bolts in the back there in a star pattern, and I tightened up all my bolts up here with my steering linkages, and I just kind of torqued down on my center bolt there a little bit, and I'm getting ready to put the wheel back on. So lastly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to torque this down to 140 foot-pounds torque right on here. Okay, and then get a half a turn on that. Okay, that's it. I've used my breaker bar, tightened up the center bolt on there. I popped my caps back in, tightened up all my lug nuts. I should be ready to go. I'm going to take this thing for a test drive and see how we did, and I'll come back and report what I found. Okay, I've got my core back in my box, got my prepaid shipping label right there. I'm going to send these back to Raxels to get my core price back, and I'm also going to include the two wrenches that they included and shipped out to me, so I could take off the center bolt and take off the axle itself. So anyway, there's everything ready to go. Okay, now I've taken this thing out for a test drive, and all I can say is, wow, what a difference the new axles made on this car. Not only did it cure the shuddering that was going on, but I had several other problems going on with the car. The front end just seemed loose when you go over bumps. It made a lot of noise and just kind of rattled all around. Also, like I said, during the acceleration it had the shuddering, and it also kind of drifted around the road a little bit. You always had to correct the steering, and all of that went away with these brand new axles put in there. So if you're having any of those issues, it could be your axles. It really worked for mine. This car drives like a brand new car. It really feels much different. The steering's tighter. It doesn't bounce around all over the bumps, and it just feels really nice. It feels so much better than it ever did. So that's it. Raxel's really treated me great. I think it was $550 out the door for the brand new axles from them. I talked with Marty. Marty really hooked me up. He said the job wouldn't be that difficult. He was right. It wasn't really all that difficult. It did take me quite some time. Some people said about a half an hour. But from start to finish, I probably had about, I don't know, 4 to 5 hours in it by the time I pulled everything out and then put everything away, cleaned everything up, and put everything back in. I ran into a few snags. Some of the bolts I had a little bit difficult getting out, a little trouble getting out, but overall it went smoothly. And leave your comments in the boxes down below. All right. Good luck, and if you have any questions, you can post them in there as well. Thanks for watching.